Welcome to another episode of This Week in Cars. We are your hosts, Justin Hong, and
Jaron Wong.
So this week we'll jump right into the car news for this week. So the first new reveal is the Genesis G90. So this one is the new flagship sedan, full-size sedan for Genesis. And I think it will be available sometime next year. So I think the design, we can first talk about the design for this.
I think we should talk about Genesis as a brand. Like I feel like we covered it a little bit, but it'd be
you
cool
want to continue the history lesson.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I think Genesis is probably one of the most exciting automakers outside of like Tesla and electric cars, because of how far they've come. Like originally you had Hyundai, which was the Econobox. Everyone knows how crappy they were, and the funny thing is in Korea, like if you watch like K-dramas or anything, a lot of the like the powerful people or like the rich people in the show would be driving Hyundais, but they were like in Asia, most cars had like a specific model had their own brand, and Genesis kind of took that and realized that they could compete with like luxury automakers. So they started off with the Hyundai Genesis, which they launched in the US like I want to say like 2013, 2012 era, around that time. And then they developed it into their own brand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we saw the first Genesis G90, I would say around 2016 or 2017. And within like, maybe 4 or 5 model years, we have like 3 different generations of the G90. Yeah, so I would say this one is like, it really does take it to the next step. Like as an S-Class competitor, the looks are truly striking.
Yeah, I think Genesis has been really making strides recently. Like their design, I think it's very competitive with what the other luxury automakers have. Yeah. So this new one looks, I think it looks just right for like a flagship luxury sedan, right? It's very imposing. It's not too aggressive.
Yeah, but the grille is plenty big enough for that level of...
Yeah, the grille is aggressive, but the rest of the car, it's not that much out there.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. It's not offensive, so to speak, but I think that's the strong point of Hyundai and Genesis design recently, is that they can make a design that's different, but not offensive.
Yeah. So I think it's Genesis. They're kind of developing their own design language now. Like Definitely. You can recognize this is a Genesis just by looking at the grille. And also they have like the 2-line motif for their, I think the headlights, and also going all the way to the back. Yeah. So I think they have their own design language, which is separate for what Hyundai has. I think Hyundai and their design, they don't really have like a distinctive design language right now.
I think like we had the Sonata, the full-size sedan, which was, well, I guess it's more of a mid-size sedan. People liken that one to a Stingray or a Shark because it has like a big like kind of shark face. It's also like pretty swoopy, and like that's I think for like Hyundai sedans, that's kind of like their design language. Like they for the Elantra N or Elantra, they shrunk that Genesis down a little bit, or Sonata down a little bit. We've also seen like recently the Hyundai like Santa Cruz. Like their design language is kind of hard to unify because they offer so many different products.
Yeah.
But for Genesis, we have the G70, G80, G90, and then the GV70, GV80, GV90. So it's much easier to basically just have one design language and apply that to, just 6 products, as opposed to having like not 5 million products, but like a lot more different body styles.
I think all the Genesis cars I've seen, it's like instantly recognizable that it's actually a Genesis. So I think they definitely have been doing a good job at making their cars more recognizable.
Which is super important for them as a budding luxury manufacturer.
Yeah, I think their main issue right now is that they don't have their own dealerships.
Yeah.
Which is like what I think something that Toyota and Lexus and also like Honda and Acura have done. They have separate dealerships. So like right now, if you want to buy a Genesis, you have to go to the Hyundai dealer, and then you get mixed up with like all the Sonatas and Elantras.
Yeah,
before
the
you actually
dealership experience
get to what you want. Yeah.
is a huge weak point from what I've heard and read. Like, a lot of people are not treated like luxury car buyers, and they're often treated more like, you know, buy here, pay here lots. And, you know, like, I think when you get to the thing that distinguishes, you know, a luxury product from a normal product for any like industry is the service, especially like is especially important to the consumers. So that's something that Genesis needs to improve on, and it's hard because dealers are kind of their own entity, which we'll get into in a bit later. But yeah, I think that's definitely a weak point for new Genesis buyers, is that their the dealership experience is just not up to par to other luxury manufacturers.
Yeah, like and even just beyond after you purchase your car, you're gonna take it back to service, and it'll be the same thing. Like you don't have the level of service expected of a luxury automaker.
Yeah, I do know that Genesis has been trying to kind of distinguish themselves. And they're doing it from like a corporate level. So they have like this interesting like white glove service where they will deliver a car to your house to test drive. And like you can test drive it for like, you know, I think a week or something. And then after that you can choose to buy it, or you can like, they'll take it back. But I think that's pretty different from other luxury manufacturers. I don't think I've heard that kind of level of service, but if you're trying to normally buy it in a dealership, then it's not as pleasant.
Yeah, so back to the new G90. I think like comparing this to like say the S-Class, which like right now it's probably the best like large luxury sedan.
The S-Class has always been like the gold standard.
Yeah, the benchmark, right? But I think this does kind of compare pretty favorably to that. Yeah, like the design. The new S-Class doesn't look very imposing compared to this Genesis.
Yeah, I think it's like the S-Class, because it's been the standard. Their design is always going to be iterative. It's not going to be something wildly different, because they don't want to offend that original user base, or rather, you know, they don't want to offend repeating customers. So Genesis has that edge in that they can, you know, they don't have like a legacy of customers that spans like 40 years or 50 years. They can just, you know, they're trying to take these customers from Mercedes and BMW that are buying these full-size luxury sedans, and realize that Genesis is the better bang for the buck. But I would say that this generation of G90, the coming generation to 2023, I think it's really come to its own, in that like it's not necessarily the budget choice or the you know, the bang for the buck one. I think it's coming to its own in that like I would see people potentially paying like S-Class money for this car.
Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle right now for Genesis is the brand recognition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so a lot of people buying these cars, they want the status that comes with it, right? Not just the vehicle itself.
Right.
So,
like an anecdotal scenario was I had a friend who was looking into buying a smaller sports sedan, and we looked at BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and I suggested, you know, you should check out the Genesis G90, and he's like, Genesis, what's that? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just the brand loyalty too. Like for someone who's been buying like Mercedes or BMW for like decades, it'll be really hard to convince them that they should get a Genesis, especially for the target audience of this car. It's probably more for like older people who have more disposable income, and those people have probably been buying like BMW or Mercedes for good part of their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
technically, Genesis as a brand should probably target more of the younger entry-level luxury buyers then.
Yeah.
Because that's the people who are the demographic that would most likely buy a Genesis product.
Yeah.
Because they haven't, been buying Benzes or Lexuses their entire life.
Yeah, and they do have other offerings like that, like the G80. But at least for the G90, I think it's definitely like targeted more towards the older audience.
Mm-hmm. I think obviously this car would do or does do very well in the Korean domestic market.
Yeah.
So at least they have that going for them.
Yeah.
Right now it's to try to break into the US market. And I haven't seen too many G80s or G90s on the road.
I've seen a few, but I think in America,
it's largely dominated by S-Class or LS.
Yeah, but also like the brand loyalty here isn't as strong as some as you would see like in Europe, where
that's true.
Yeah, everyone's going to just buy German, right? So I think in America here, like Genesis actually has a chance to sway some of these luxury customers.
And with the proliferation of K-dramas and Korean culture in general, it only helps their case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've exhausted that topic. So should we move on to our next one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for our next topic, we have seen the new BMW XM concept. And what the XM is trying to achieve here is they're trying to win the ugliest SUV award.
Yeah, this is coming from that G90. I don't know how.
Oh, man.
I can't stand this.
You know how I said the Genesis was unoffensive despite being different? BMW seems to try to be offensive while being different, or rather be different by being offensive. It's just, wow, it's a lot to take in a bad way.
Yeah, like from every angle, I don't think this car has a good angle.
It has too many angles.
Yeah.
And then with all those angles, there's just no good angle. Right. So the concept itself, though, is going to be a plug-in hybrid powertrain. So with a turbocharged V8 or twin turbocharged V8, and it supposedly produces 750 horsepower and 737 pound-feet of torque. I think I guess there's like a callback to heritage in the dual BMW logos. It kind of reminiscent of the BMW M1 of when BMW cars look good. And outside of that, there's just, typical huge grille. Not really swoopy. I think it could be like if you took an X7 and you like bashed in all the sides. I think I don't know, like I really don't like the way it looks.
Yeah, I mean, so this is still a concept, right?
Right.
But
right.
I think it's fair to say that the production version will be quite similar to this, which is
Probably.
pretty,
I mean,
pretty unfortunate.
we've seen how bad the BMW iX looks, right?
Yeah.
So where's BMW going with this kind of like design,
I don't know, just BMW design lately. I don't know what their designers are up to.
Like, are we looking at a Hyundai scenario, or rather a Korean company scenario, where all the Korean companies have hired away all the good designers?
I think
and we're left with this.
Hasn't Genesis like poached a bunch of BMW designers?
Not only BMW, they've poached I believe a few Bentley designers too.
Yeah.
which is what so basically, the Korean brain drain is going on, while the rest of the world is left with these, like, I don't know what they're even thinking about designers. It's like, I'm sure the powertrain is good. I'm sure it's gonna drive great like a BMW SUV does. But like, no one does anyone aspire? Is this even gonna be a car where people are gonna be like, oh, this car's gonna grow on me?
I don't think so.
Because people have said the M4 has grown on them, but I don't know, man. I don't see this car growing on me ever.
The M4 has great performance, right?
Right.
If you don't look at the grille, at the design, it drives great.
The rear side of the M4 looks good.
Yeah.
There's no side of this car that looks good.
There's no good angle for this XM.
It's yeah. I really don't know.
Yeah, but on the performance side, with around 750 horsepower, I think this will be probably one of the most powerful SUVs in the market when it comes out. But then it kind of goes back to the question like,
why do you need such a powerful SUV?
Yeah, like should an M car, should an M car be an SUV? Because SUVs they just don't drive great, right? They're not the ultimate driving machine. Like you can't get around physics. It just won't handle as well as something that's rides lower.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to where the industry's headed, and like, I think it's one thing to build SUVs that people will buy. It's another thing to, create concepts of SUVs people won't buy.
I mean, I feel like people will buy it.
You think?
I think so, because SUVs are so hot now. Like you can make anything, people will buy it. But like,
so I think their design is purposely controversial in that they're like, hey, we have a great heritage, and we can make whatever we want, and people will still buy it.
But like BMW already has a lineup of SUVs, right? And they also have the X5M, X6M. So if you want that performance SUV that's like a step up from your regular X5, you have that today. Like, is there a really need for this 750 horsepower plug-in hybrid?
Well, this is their Trackhawk, basically, right? So Jeep has the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. I think this is them saying, we are top dog in the performance SUV, which is an oxymoron market. I mean, at the same time, this is also a transitional product. I mean, I don't think, is this considered a swan song for BMW's gas-powered SUVs?
Because if it hybrid.
If it is a swan song, this is a freaking terrible swan song. I don't want to remember.
I don't think hybrids count, right?
I mean, it does have a twin turbocharged V8.
Yeah, but
because like the hybrid is probably like a mild one, in that like, or I guess it is also a plug-in hybrid, so maybe it's gonna be small.
It's like the next generation of AMG, right? You have like for the GT73, it's gonna have like a turbo V8 plus an electric motor. So I guess if you consider that like still a swan song, then.
Yeah, because like the next step is, I think we're not going to see any gas-powered cars after 2030, like for the consumer market, right? So yeah, this is the swan song, and it's a very polarizing, not great-looking swan song.
You mean this won't be a collectible?
It'll be collectible in the fact that like no one will buy it, and then people would like want it maybe in 2060. They're like, wow, remember when BMW made the ugliest looking SUV in the world?
The ugliest SUV. That's collectible status right there.
Yeah, I guess so. Like this is gonna be the Aztec of BMW, the Pontiac Aztec of BMW.
Yeah.
And with that, I don't want to look at this car anymore. Moving on.
So the next car that was revealed this week was Lexus RZ. So this is like the first EV that Lexus has for the U.S. market. I think they released one for China. It's like a electric version of the UX.
Right.
But this RZ, it looks like it's very similar to the Toyota like BZ4X.
Yeah, I think it's probably built on the same platform.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar as in the RAV4 and the Lexus NX. They have the same platform.
Right. I wouldn't blame. I mean, we know that all the manufacturers have been moving towards unified platforms, so that's to be expected. But I do think that this RZ does do a lot to differentiate from the other products in terms of its design.
Yeah, I'm sure the design it'll be different from the Toyota BZ4X. I don't want to say that again.
It's just a jumble of letters. Like, what does it even mean?
Yeah, and I think the RZ, it's going to be named like the RZ450E. So that implies it probably has more power than the BZ4X.
Because it has a 5 after, or it has a 50 after
450E. So I'm assuming that means somewhere close to like maybe 300 horsepower.
You think?
I think, yeah. I
I
hope
mean,
so.
we do have the Prius Prime, which makes
Yeah.
320 something horsepower.
Yeah, and the 2022 Lexus NX 450EH Plus.
Is that the full name?
Yeah, that's the top of the line NX. I think
Mhm.
it has around 300 horsepower from
Mhm.
that same plug-in hybrid powertrain that the RAV4 Prime has.
Right.
So, but the Toyota BZ4X, it's not very fast. It has like around 200 horsepower.
Mhm.
So I think it's fair that Lexus will make this a bit more powerful to differentiate it from the Toyota,
Mhm.
as well as the design. I'm not a big fan of the BZ4X's design.
No.
No.
But I think the Subaru Solterra, which is the same, based off the same platform, I think that one looks unoffensive.
Yeah.
It's the more mild version. I think what Subaru does is whatever collaboration they have with Toyota, they just make a more mild version of it.
Yeah, and I think Toyota like has this trend of making their EVs, their hybrids, really radically aggressive design for no reason.
I wouldn't blame that on Toyota. I think that's an industry trend. Like,
Yeah, but Toyota, I feel like Toyota is the worst at it, right?
oh,
The
yeah, they're the
Prius-
worst offender.
Yeah, the Prius. I think the redesigned Prius started from 2016.
Yeah,
That was an
bad.
eyesore.
And we see so many of them too.
Yeah, and the BZ4X, it just looks, totally reminds me of that Prius.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But like in a crossover form.
yeah,
But the RZ though, like I think so. Lexus basically started their new design language generation like 2015, 16ish. They really started going more aggressive. The spindle grille, that is pretty polarizing actually, but man, it's bad to say. I think it's grown on me.
yeah. I think so. Yeah,
Right.
like after if you've seen a BMW M4, that spindle grille looks great.
Yeah, it looks more natural than
Yeah.
the M4. But I think one of the complaints was that, you know, Lexus cars have always looked aggressive since that generation, but they haven't really performed in a way that matches its visual personality. And I'm hoping this one might change that. You know, I mean, it's the thing is it's still going to be, you know, an electric car, but design-wise, it's like I really like the way it looks. Actually, from what we can see at least.
Yeah, the teaser.
The light bar, you know, it's actually quite reminiscent of the Urus for me. I think we can see a bit of the spindle grille, but it's a little more minimized. So yeah, I do like the way this one looks.
And they'll probably have an F Sport version of this as well. Which
Will they make the spindle grille bigger?
Probably. They'll make
Bigger and
it
more
black
aggressive.
and also more imposing,
Right.
like the trend has been.
Mm-hmm.
But based on a teaser, I think this will be the styling. At least the styling will be acceptable.
Right.
Yeah.
I think out of like the soupy coupe, this isn't really a soupy coupe, but like it does have that kind of I would say like roofline. And recently the Toyota Venza, which used to be this like dumpy like wagon car, if you remember back in the day.
Yeah.
They brought the Toyota Harrier, which is the Asian version, and they brought it to the U.S. and labeled it or named it the Venza. And I think the design on the Venza is actually really good.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the nicer looking Toyotas today.
It's like flirting between like entry level Lexus, if not like could be a Lexus product, and like top of the line Toyota. It's like the Avalon, but in a SUV form or crossover form.
Yeah, and the swooping like roofline towards the back, I think we'll see a lot of that in the coming years because of the aerodynamic benefits of that. And even the Genesis G90, like although that's not like electric powered, you still have that probably for the MPGs. Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, does it compromise headroom or like usable capacity?
I think it's not that great for rear visibility for sure, but it's a compromise.
It's not as bad as some other manufacturers make it, right? Like the I think the ones that we complained about, like the soupy coupe SUVs, are like the X6 and the GLE coupe, and those are soupy to a point where it actually compromises the car's usability. Where I would say, like, you know, the Venza or this one isn't as bad.
Yeah, this one looks fine.
Yeah. Cool. I think we've pretty much talked all we can see about the RZ, which you've only seen a preview of, but you know, so far it looks good.
Yep. So I think that's all for car news this week.
Mm-hmm.
So next we'll jump into our Grinds My Gears section.
Yep.
So this week, what grinds my gears is dealer markup.
Oh man, this one has people heated for days, guaranteed. Like, if there's anyone who, I don't think there's anyone who likes dealer markups, besides dealers.
Yeah, and salespeople.
Right. The thing is, I don't blame the salespeople because they're basically just doing their job. Like, I have a friend who's a dealer salesman, and he doesn't make commission, but you know, he sells the cars with the markup, as that's what the dealer instructs him to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame the salespeople at all. It's all the management ownership. They're the ones who actually decide the markups.
Right.
And that's the issue.
And like, we've seen some just particularly egregious markups recently because of the chip shortage. Like, we've seen the Toyota RAV4 Prime sell with a $40,000 dealer markup. That's just like double the value. That makes the car like $80,000 or something like that.
I think the RAV4 Prime, the MSRP's close to 50,000. So with this markup, it's like over 90,000 with some options and destination fees.
And this was at Toyota of Oakland, which is actually pretty close to
Toyota
here.
Oakland. So it's crazy how they're asking almost 100K for
like
a RAV4.
So some people have said like they don't expect anyone to pay that kind of markup, but maybe like they're hoping someone will come along and be like, oh, if I can negotiate this markup down to 20K, I'll buy this car.
Yeah, that might be the strategy they're going for.
Yeah, but in the end, you're still paying 70 grand for a Toyota RAV4 Prime. You know, yes, it has 300 something horsepower, but why? Who in the right mind would do that?
I guess if you somehow saved up a lot of money in the past 2 years, then maybe.
Then maybe you're dumb enough to.
Yeah, maybe you're dumb enough.
If you were smart enough to save the money, you're dumb enough to spend it like that. I really hope not.
Yeah.
Like, who's desperate enough to, you know, give the dealer 20 grand just for buying a car in a shortage? Like, do you need that RAV4 Prime that bad? Like $20,000 bad?
Like, I can see you needing a car desperately. If your current car is broken down,
okay,
and you want a new car, but you probably don't need that RAV4 Prime.
No.
Yeah.
You could probably, like you can definitely find a car that doesn't have a $20,000 markup, right?
Yeah, like the 4Runner. So I've seen a 4Runner at, I think, Toyota Palo Alto. It has a 20K markup.
Like, just why? And the thing is, the 4Runner isn't even like a new generation either. It's on the same platform.
But the 4Runner, even though they haven't updated in forever, is actually selling really well.
I can see that.
Yeah, the sales haven't dropped off at all, which so it makes sense why Toyota wouldn't update it. But at the same time, a 20K markup.
Yeah, it couldn't be me.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've seen Tesla as a manufacturer. They don't have dealers, you know. They just have company showrooms, and then if you buy a car, it gets delivered to you. So our dealers, like, this is like, you know, a hot take, but I think dealers are basically you know, middlemen are bad, and dealers are middlemen.
Yeah, I think when you're purchasing a new car, oftentimes the most annoying part of it is just haggling with salespeople. So I don't like that part of the dealership experience. But I think, like, after you purchase your car, like, if you want to take it to service or anything, that's when the dealership really comes in handy, right? With Tesla, like, right now, since they don't have dealerships, if you need any repairs or service, you're going to have to wait a long time because of that.
not only a not long time, but I think because they don't have the dealer market that exists, because they're a relatively new manufacturer, their service centers are placed like pretty far from a lot of owners. Like some people have reported they have to drive 2-3 hours to get to um, a service center. So the thing is, like, I argue that if you are a manufacturer, for example, Genesis, that needs this like dealer network, or just for multiple reasons. Like a dealer serves the function of selling cars, selling used cars, or like buying or like taking in inventory, and a service center. But if you have like a online marketplace, like Tesla, or you could just buy a car online, you can also just make service centers without a dealer network.
Yeah.
Like what stops, like I can see that you can make more money, or rather like you can help dealers make money by establishing a dealer network, or you could just, have a service center, or like create service centers, more service centers. But yeah, I don't know too many people who are fans of dealers, and the dealer markups just make us hate them more, right? So
Yeah, but you have to like keep in mind that not all dealers participate in the markups. There are plenty of dealers that do have policies where they don't mark up any of their cars. And so there's some competition going around between dealers. And so I think a short-term solution for the end consumers would just be to not buy from any dealers that have markups.
Right.
Yeah, like if you take your business elsewhere, they won't sell any cars and they'll stop the markups.
But the thing is, there's going to be that one guy who's a sucker, and then he buys
There's
into
the
it,
one guy, but
and then we'll always continue to see, like, it just perpetuates the usage of markups, right?
yeah.
So,
But I think if everyone takes their business
vote with
within
your
reasonable
wallet.
means, yeah,
Right.
vote with your wallet,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll see these markups come down, especially like once this shortage is over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when you have hotly anticipated cars, even without a shortage, they're going to be there's going to be limited edition cars. For instance, like the 400Z launch edition, or like the C8 Z06. Right? We saw markups of like 50K for that car because it was so desirable. So even without a shortage, we're probably going to see markups, right?
Yeah, for certain cars, I think so. But like, I feel like in the past year with this shortage, I think the dealership experience will also change. I don't think we'll ever go back to the previous dealership experience entirely. Like discounts, haggling with salespeople. I think a lot of that will go away.
Where you have like a no haggle price.
Yeah, which kind of moves towards the direction of no dealership, right? If you don't have to haggle about price,
then there's no point of a dealership.
Yeah. So we might be headed in that direction actually.
So the other question is, how we have service centers right now, because we have, or rather, most cars still need maintenance and stuff like that. But as we're going towards the more, as we're seeing the electrification of cars, these electric cars need much less maintenance than most gas, like ICE cars, right? So the question is, if there's going to be less needs for these the maintenance of these cars, how are dealers going to survive with with a service center that like has much less demand and usage?
I think it'll be different, but we'll still see like a market for service. I think even for like Teslas today, there's
most
still
of it is
service.
because of bad quality control.
Yeah, but there's still service. Like I think there's different service. I think for Teslas you have some like brake pad lubrication.
Yeah,
or something.
it's literally like just brakes and air filters.
Yeah.
Tires, but tire shops are a different entity alone. But like I feel like if you're just doing brakes and air filters, it becomes a very you won't even need that many service centers. And better yet, like you'll have those you have service centers that are quite like manufacturer agnostic, because these jobs are pretty simple to do by anyone without like manufacturer specific knowledge, right? So I think it puts into question whether or not, you know, these service centers will continue to exist, and, you know, like whether or not I think that's a huge amount of most dealers' businesses.
Yeah, service, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. Anywho. So I think that pretty much wraps up our Grinds My Gear section as well as this episode. Have you heard of anything coming in the near future for the next few weeks?
So there's the new like Aston Martin Vantage. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a swan song for Aston Martin. We haven't seen any like actual photos, but we just know that it's coming from a teaser we saw on the Aston Martin YouTube. So looking forward to see how that looks in the near future.
Yeah. Do you know when we'll get more information on this?
I think Aston Martin hasn't really declared much. It's just saying that it's going to come back next year, and you know, I feel like this last few years, or rather the last like year of cars, has just been swan songs over and over. We hear a swan song for every car from every manufacturer. But that's just the way it is. So on that somewhat morbid note, thank you for listening to this episode. Please check us out on our YouTube at This Week in Cars, as well as our website, thisweekincars.com. And yeah, thanks for listening.